Well, that's a really huge question, and it's something the CBD has been trying to work on since about 2003 at least, and others for even longer. So we're not going to measure everything about biodiversity, but what the strategic plan requires is that we come up with enough key information that can be rolled up and provide a global assessment to give policymakers a snapshot of where things stand with biodiversity and whether the changes that we're trying to make have good impacts and are making things better.
Can you give me an example of useful information for policymakers? What would be particularly useful for a government ministry when they're coming to, I don't know, planning to build on a greenfield site or cut down a forest? What sort of information do you think they should have?
Well, they need to know the impact of that activity on the biodiversity that is important to their country, both ecologically and economically in many cases. So they need to know if cutting down that forest or changing that landscape in some other way is going to kill all the species or change the ecosystem in the core protected area that they might be depending on for ecotourism or for other ecological services to the broader community.
And in terms of communication, it strikes me that in the climate debate, which is obviously now hugely controversial, at least we have that rather easy metric of a ton of CO2. And people, even if they don't know what it looks like, and obviously it's see-through, but they can kind of quantify it and they can sort of work out so-and-so is emitting these tons of CO2. Is there anything that you can compare when we talk about biodiversity? Is there anything similar to that at all?
I don't think there's ever going to be one measure for biodiversity in the same way that there is for climate change, and that's always been the frustration that biodiversity doesn't have quite that political valence that climate does, because we can't state it quite as simply as a ton of carbon. But I think what we're trying to do through the indicators process and through the Aichi targets is come up with a core set of really key indicators that are intelligible to the educated public and that can provide the public with an idea of where things are going in terms of biodiversity. It's not going to be one number, but maybe we can get it down to 10 indicators or 20 at most.
And in terms of, say, working on 20 indicators, what's the kind of roadmap for that? Is that achievable within 10 years? I mean, all of the focus at the moment seems to be on 2020. Is that something that can be achieved by then?
Well, we do have a lot of indicators that have substantial data going into them, and what the team network is trying to do is actually improve the quality of those indicators, so provide a more consistent set of scientifically valid data that is consistent across sites, so you can compare things more readily and you're not comparing apples and oranges. So yes, I think it is achievable, and I think we have to do it. We have to do a better job of measuring biodiversity change and the impacts of human activities on biodiversity. And so it's a constant iterative process, of course, but I think we are getting a lot closer, and I think we will get there.